Hi, everyone. On behalf of the Institute for Harmonic Resonance Technology and Hartfield Productions, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Introduction to Beyond ME Move Beyond the Matrix webinar with Richard Bartlett and Melissa Joy Johnson. We encourage you to use the question box to type in any questions you may have or to comment during the webinar. And this question box should appear on the right side of your screen. If your question doesn't get answered during the webinar, please feel free to email it to us at info@i-hrt.com. For the best possible sound and video quality, please close all other applications on your device. And remember, you will all receive a replay link to this webinar tomorrow, about 24 hours from the end of this webinar. If you don't get it, please email that same address, info@i-hrt.com, and we will send it to you. And now I'm happy to introduce Richard Bartlett and Melissa Joy Johnson.
And train. I've got a train. Talking about music, I'm trying to figure out what the notes are of this train that goes by. It's two notes that are just kind of dissonant. So I may not see the questions if you ask, because I put my question box down because it was blocking Melissa, and I haven't seen Melissa in a long time. So hi, Melissa.
I can see the question icon, so I'll handle them as they come.
Yeah, I didn't want it blocking you because that was not working for me. Beyond ME, it's going to be something that, well, it's going to be beyond what you've seen before. That's the very nature of the thing. We've always tried to take the technology, the consciousness of what we were teaching together to new levels. And in fact, we've done it. But I've understood over the years something Dr. Frank used to say, Victor Frank in TBM. He used to say that he was stuck at teaching at a certain level because he had to teach the basics. And then there were people that, like myself, that went beyond the basics because we weren't shackled to that. So in a sense, teaching the basics of two-point time travel, parallel universes, frequencies, which that might still be a part of this, but frequencies and all this, these things, once you learn them, they're like placeholders for expansion. But the problem is, if there's not a new template to expand into, then it doesn't happen. So ideas, concepts, however good they are, however good they might be, are self-limiting. They're like in brackets. And so you can't go beyond the brackets at some point. Now, individual practitioners have done this. They've gone beyond the brackets. Melissa and I have done this, and many of you perhaps have. But there are many of you also that have never been to a seminar. And then there's the issue of the people that think they've been to a seminar and they've been to a fake seminar. And God only knows what they were taught, but that didn't really contribute to a healthy, strong, stable field either. Now, I'm healthy, but I'm not so strong or stable. Melissa's a strong, stable one. So we have that working for us. But the point is this dynamic, it needed to go through evolution or end. And so at one point, Melissa and I were talking about this, and when something isn't fun anymore, I just like say, well, it's not any fun anymore, so I'm not going to do it. That's been true with most of my life. And I still love matrix energetics, we both do, and we will be enfolding the field of matrix energetics into what's coming, because it will always be a part of our hearts and a part of our being. What we're going to teach is still going to be tremendous fun. It's going to be exciting, but it's going to be very new. It's going to challenge you. It's going to stretch you. It's going to challenge and stretch us. And this is what we want. And this is how things grow. Things grow when they're stretched and when they're challenged. Listen.
The challenge really is an opportunity for everyone, because we will be including some of the fundamental principles that everybody has grown to know and love, and that people are still hungry for. There are a number of people attending this free webinar who've never been to a matrix energetic seminar, and they're thinking, oh great, here's my opportunity. And you will not be disappointed, because we will still provide you with the fundamental principles that have always catalyzed the field of ME. But we're going to teach you in a way that is more reflective of where Richard and I and our clients have ventured into in current time. It's like teaching. It's the difference between teaching a Lamborghini that was developed in 1993 versus a Lamborghini that has all the bells and whistles of, say, 2018. And so you'll still get the basic language of ME. And then we're going far beyond that with a whole new protocol, if you will, based on restoring the harmonics in the body. And this protocol, it's kind of a misnomer to even call it a protocol, but we have to call it something. We have to call ME something. But this protocol, it's going to have 18 access points that will enable you to restore the musical orchestration and the synthesis within the physical body and all layers of the biohologram. Richard and I individually have been teaching harmonics for a number of years. I've been teaching overtones and undertones in the MJOY seminar. Richard's been writing music for a couple of decades now, and we're taking that individual knowledge and we're coupling it together to create a synthesis that would be greater than anything that we could perhaps deliver on our own. So we're really, really looking forward to that new component that will parlay off of what everyone knows and loves about ME. And in the same spirit that we have always taught ME, you don't need to know anything. You don't need to know music. You don't really even need to know ME in order to know the new stuff that we're teaching. And so that's the challenge, and that's also the opportunity, and that's what we're super excited about, to create an experience that's going to benefit everyone, no matter how much you think you know or how many seminars you've attended, or if you've never attended a seminar.
Basically, Dr. Reese, one of my master teachers, said that vibration or motion was life, and vibration is oscillation. Oscillation is two things: it's space and time. Space is frequency, and so melody is actually space. It goes over a time frame, and the time is actually limited or delineated by the rhythm. So everything in life, absolutely everything, has a pulse, and the biophotons, they pulse. There's a great book, I'll show it to you. You guys can maybe get it if you want it. Music Soul Making by Barbara Crow. And there's so much material in here that is resonant with everything that I was already noticing and was already beginning to develop, and with the music I would notice. Now, for years, I don't know if you can see it here or not. Yeah, you probably can. I've got a keyboard here, and I've got another one back there, and got a bunch of computers hooked up together. For years now, at times, when a person had a particular problem, it's come through as music. Now, harmonics, what Melissa mentioned, is based on basically putting a bunch of frequencies together in a certain time space. So they stack. When you stack harmonics and you stack these frequencies, what you get is you get a tremendous overtone series, like a universal field that's held like in a bubble at that point. So when you can tune that in such a way that those resonant frequencies then speak to the harmonics of the body as the body is giving off this information in pulses and in frequencies, you can then restore the healthy vibration to those cells, to those photons, to that body, to those organs and organ systems. So it's never been tried before, what I'm proposing with Melissa, what we're going to do together, but some elements of it have been played with. You know, like people do things like toning, or they'll sing tones. This is a big thing with the Tibetan lamas and various people, where they will learn to sing a tone and an overtone at the same time. And then these will vibrate, you know, resonant frequencies and can be used. Same thing with Tibetan bowls, bells and crystal bowls and things like that. People have done this. What we're proposing to do is to take that and actually create a massive field for that then will be accessed through the feeling state, through actually just like matrix energetics, where you will feel the field, move into that field, and be able to track that field, and then track changes in that field, and then fine tune those changes to that person's needs.
And the beautiful thing about what we're cultivating together is that you don't need to really understand harmonics or overtones or undertones or frequency or vibration or oscillation or pulse or tone or any of the musical terms that we will provide you with as kind of food for thought, if you will. You don't need to understand that. All you really have to do is connect to what you're feeling. And this is a universal experience for absolutely everyone. There are universal responses to certain types of musical overtures. This is proven scientifically that if you listen to a certain variation of sound, it's going to evoke sadness. You listen to a certain variation of tones together, and it creates an elated state. And so we're going to be leveraging those perhaps core universal truths and human responses through the art of feeling, which is different than emotion, but feeling, sensing, perceiving, everything that you learn to do and fine-tune in ME. And we're going to do that from a musical standpoint to support the body in healing, in restoring coherence, and sustaining and supporting transformation. It's going to be really, actually, it's going to be easy. I think Richard and I do a great job making things sound complex, but it's important to know the complexity because it's not just something that you make up. There's actually a science behind it that delivers the correct information to the body, which is why the body responds accordingly. So we'll give you that background science. We'll give you the language of music, but knowing music isn't necessary. Just knowing what you feel, what you calibrate, what you track, sense, and perceive will make you golden in what we are going to be presenting for all of you when you come to the seminar.
And we'll be able to do it together because we're going to build that group state together. And anything that we build together is going to become unique to our approach. So we can build in the things as we're learning together that are going to work for the most number of people, which is always our concern. Now, I'll tell you in a joke, I'm wearing the shirt for you guys. If you just take a snapshot of this shirt and then study that before the seminar, then you'll be good to go. Kidding, but it does have a lot of music theory on it. One of the things that we're going to do, let me show you. Oh, right here, right in front of me. Oh my God. I've got an app here, which you guys could get if you want, but we'll talk to you about it later. But basically, you can take an interval, any interval, and then you can track that interval into the physical body, say the liver, and we could track a tone. Let's see if I can play a tone for you here just a minute. So I'd like to show you this. Oh, I see. I put this back in upside down. Okay. Oh, well, maybe not. Not at the moment anyway. Well, I would show you, but anyway, once you learn to hear or sense tones, and I'll show you together. Melissa and I will show you like Happy Birthday and Star Wars and Happy Birthday, Mr. President, and all sorts of things. There are intervals, these frequencies that run together, the intervals that we've all heard, and you will know them because you've heard them. They're super familiar. So you don't have to play them, although I will have a device if it could get it working, but it's not working today. We'll have things to do that, and you could do that very cheaply. But the point is like I can do that with my hand. We can feel this. Melissa and I can do this where we go, okay, so here is, say, this is a D note. You don't have to know that, but here's a note. And then if we go up, there is a G with the D. And we go up above that, there's a C, so that's a seventh. And we go up above that, there's another note. Now see, I can send that to all of you, like so. And this is resonating in your field, and it's toning and tuning in your vibratory awareness in the non-Hertzian waves, or what you want to call scalar or torsion field waves. It's tuning the information. This is a very powerful thing. When I would work with people, sometimes, like I said, I'd have a brass section or a string or a chorus or something come through that was specific, those tones, very specific, and those combinations of instruments, very specific to someone's needs. So certain instruments, like the French horn will work in a different level, the brass works in a different level, and awareness in the body than, say, the piccolo way up here. And we're going to show you all that. It's like the effects that you get, for instance, in the piccolo up here are on the brain. And then you have the low, tones like the timpani, and you have like the baritone sax, and these very low instruments that vibrate at a very base level. Now, all of this works through the piezoelectric effect of the bones and the connective tissue. But fascinating enough, in this book, Barbara talks about how some researchers took the codes for DNA and they ran it through a computer program, probably similar to one that I have, and the DNA played back as recognizable melodies. Now, you want to get creeped out, which it creeped me out a little bit, but in Barbara's book here, there's a reference to cancer. This person had cancer, and when they played back the sequence, it actually played back as Chopin's funeral dirge. Now, that's pretty creepy. But can you imagine the possibilities of being able to bring in something uplifting, or to bring in something that shatters a pattern, or bring in something that tunes a pattern just right so those cells start to sing the body electric? That's a chapter actually in the Holographic Universe, Michael Talbot. I Sing the Body Electric. It's a fascinating, very empowering subject, and it's going to be so exciting for us to teach it to you, because I think you're just going to be on fire for it like we will be.
And really, it's not such an outrageous concept to imagine, because every single person on this live webinar or watching the recording has had an experience of being in a crappy mood, getting in your car, turning on the radio, and you hear some amazing Led Zeppelin songs that you haven't heard since 1991, and all of a sudden you're jettisoned back to an earlier time in your life, and you experience a complete state change. And that state change is far deeper than just thoughts or emotions, because in our interconnected hologram, every single facet of our system is in a conversation with itself, all the way down to the DNA. So when you're talking about reprogramming the DNA, whether you're using music or you're using language, as Dr. Peter Garyaev does consistently with wave genetics in Russia, it's the same thing. The language creates harmonics, that harmonics creates coherence, that coherence creates healing, and that healing creates well-being. And so if you think of it as simply as state changes, a series of state changes through certain rhythms, certain pulses, certain patterns. We're dealing with patterns of information here, just like we did in the fundamentals of ME, but more complex patterns that can allow for a deeper resonance and a deeper harmonics to pulsate and ripple out through the entire biohologram.
And you'll be able to fine tune, say, I want to work on this knee and this cartilage of the knee. And so the cartilage of the knee comes in as a bass clarinet, and that bass clarinet then has this note of F, and you can feel that. And you go to the G, and that's not hitting the knee, and you go back to the F, and it hits the knee perfectly. Now, what's interesting, well, there's so many interesting things here, but what makes an instrument sound like an instrument is its overtone series. And so if I had a French horn and I had a bass clarinet and I had a cello and I stripped out all the overtones, they would all sound exactly the same. It's the way the actual body of the instrument and the torsion of the instrument, the actual shapes of the instrument combine to create this resonant cavity that vibrates in a certain way that creates these overtones, that creates this uniqueness. Now, we're the same way. We're 90% water, and we're made of torsion fields. Our body at the very basic level is torsion. And so torsion is information, and that non-Hertzian information, or torsion, as it talks about in Barbara's book here, can imprint the DNA, can change the photons, can change the cellular structure, can interface with the chakras, the mind, and the emotions. Now, an example that Melissa gave, very good example of music changing your mood. I was in a good mood anyway, but I spent the last 2 days, over at Car Toys. My Firebird has this nice sound system that I got a long time ago, but it hasn't worked in a long time. So I wanted to get it working. I wanted to hear the music in its fullness. All I had was a couple of crappy speakers in the back and couldn't hear it. And I have a great system with a nice amplifier in there and all of this. So I went in and paid to get it fixed. And when I came home yesterday, I came home in crappy traffic. It was bumper to bumper like you would not believe. But I turned on the stereo. Actually, as I was leaving Car Toys, I turned on the stereo and Batman from Hans Zimmer came on. And when the drums hit, I almost jumped out of my seat. But the beautiful thing is I let it play the music scores of the classical station. Well, it wasn't classical, more movie scores. And everything that was played, I could feel it resonating through my body. My mood got so elevated that it was like just staring out at all the cars, which again, bumper to bumper, I was elated. Can you imagine being elated, sitting in traffic, staring out and looking at the leaves and feeling the air? And this is how music affects us. And this is what happens with our internal body. There were clairvoyants, I read about this a long time ago, they could hear cancer, for instance. They could hear the dissonance in the cells. And same thing with smell, you know, like certain animals, they can smell cancer. Well, that smell, again, is vibration and overtone series. And at another level, it becomes music. Same thing with photons. At another level, it becomes soliton waves, which are, again, non-Hertzian, which, again, communicate at a difference, they do not lose any strength at a distance. All of these things you've already investigated. You know, I want you to think about this. When Melissa and I started teaching matrix energetics, we were the only people teaching about torsion field physics, teaching about non-Hertzian waves, teaching about scalar energy. Nobody else was even touching this topic. It's the same here, only it's going to be even deeper. But look, we had children in the class that understood exactly what we were talking about. You'll understand and you're going to get it. And when you get it, you're going to be very excited because it's a very uplifting thing to be able to change your own frequency and vibration by just adjusting the harmonic overtones in your being.
You know, to that effect, Nancy's asking a question. It's frequency, right? That frequency resonates with us. Do we intuitively know what tone, similar to the way we know what life force frequency, does the body respond spontaneous with movement? It's more than frequency. It's torsion that holds the information. The torsion that holds the information is what affects the frequency, which describes the movement of the waveform in the electromagnetic spectrum. So yeah, it's frequency, but it's much more than frequency. And those harmonic overtones and undertones are very much intuitive. In other words, we kind of have a knowing without knowing how we know what that right tone or overtone may be, and that is what elicits the correct frequency. So it's slightly different than like trying to find the right frequency and getting a match and like hoping that your vibration is right in a very narrow parameter and narrow bracket. It's actually a very expanded place to play from because you're just tuning in to what feels, I'll use the word correct, but it's not really the correct word. It just feels right, but it's not right from a right-wrong polarity. It's just like, it just locks in and it just feels natural. And what's natural is what's organic, and what's organic is what heals.
But there are certain rules of music that we can show you that will teach you how to have those conversations. The more you know, the more it gets put into the field. And again, once it's in the field responds. The field's going to build this, and you're going to be able to access it. But I predict many of you will be able to, even if you're not had any musical training, you're going to be able to hear these tones. You're going to be able to feel them resonating in your body. And like I've got this tone here, which is a minor third. And then if I move this a little bit, I can feel it start to oscillate. That's a microtone. If I move it a little more now, that's locked into a fourth, which is a whole different vibration. You can see Melissa actually starting to rotate as I'm working with that because she's responding to it. And you'll have a little keyboard to play with, you know, like on your manual, so you'll be able to.
We're not giving away iPads. Like you just implied that we're giving away iPads. We're not giving away
iPads. You'll have a keyboard that's imprinted on your manual, so you can touch it, and then you'll learn to hear the tones and feel them. But it's not just the single tones that we're talking about. It's the combination, like a piccolo here, and a French horn here, and a cello here, and a bass clarinet here, all playing different tones or maybe even the same tone, is going to create a much different effect. It's the layers of the overtones in the harmonic series that are truly healing. When this started to come to me, and I don't just decide to teach something. Melissa and I, we wait. You know, if something is given to us, then we will teach it. But if nothing's given, we're not going to go out and just create something. These instruments started coming in where I could actually clairvoyantly see like a clarinet or see a flute or see a cello. And I was starting to hear them during sessions and map them as frequency spectrums. So this has been building for, as Melissa said, for probably a decade. This has been building for a long, long time. And we're really excited to bring this to you because it's going to reliven, reactivate this field and bring it to a whole nother level of possibility. And there's a lot of principles like iteration, like being able to pulse a frequency and then to have that frequency have redundancy and spin, and then to create then waves from that. There's a lot of science involved, but again, it's as simple as just feeling into that field and then following the information. So you can get as complex with it as you want in the seminar or afterwards, and many people will, or you can keep it very simple to a feeling. We're going to show you both ways.
If you consider that all sound is just light in a slower density, then if you parlay back to your basic ME skills where we taught you that everything is light, information, and resonance, well, we're still dealing with that light and information. We're just dealing with it in kind of a slowed down, more dense configuration. And it's the difference between walking into a room and having the light switch fully on versus maybe having a dimmer switch and being able to have like a purple light and a yellow light and an orange light. It's going to create different tones, different environments, different resonances, different experiences. So if you're not musically inclined, if you don't think you have an ear for music, we're not teaching you to listen. But we are teaching you to perceive that light as sound, carrying information that then is delivered into the biohologram, into our physical experience of reality. One of the gifts that I kind of bring to the table is an ability to give you multiple access points. So if we're talking, say, in one area of music theory, and we're giving you parameters, then I can bring in some metaphors if you don't have a reference for music that will then make it very understandable and very relatable. So if you're concerned about having no music background, I would say come to the seminar. You'll probably be an advanced student because sometimes
you'll have the background because it's going to be that field. The field's enormous.
Sometimes what you think you know can be a perceived hindrance. And if you do know music, then it will be an asset. So you're really all kind of going to be on the same page, but you're going to experience it differently. Richard was mentioning earlier how what makes a sound distinct is the resonant cavity that the sound is delivered through. Well, if you think of all of us, we all have unique resonant cavities. And so we're all going to create a different set of harmonic overtones and undertones, different symphonies that will be orchestrated. And what that means is that we're going to continue to deliver uniquely to the individual. So this is why calling it an 18-point protocol is kind of erroneous, because every single pattern is going to be approached differently because everybody's resonant cavity is quite unique.
I can count 12 on a flute, maybe 13. There's 18. There's probably 18 points there. Absolutely. The uniqueness of you is what's going to drive this. And this is one of the reasons why we wanted to create something like this, because people are so unique. They need a uniqueness sometimes in their field, specific information. Now, what Melissa said is key right there. She said light, information, and resonance. Resonance is music. That's what it is. And everything resonates. Everything resonates. It's frequency and oscillation. That's resonance. So once you set up a resonance, you start to vibrate in harmony with it. Then you can tune that to that individual perfect frequency that brings in both health and elation, happiness, all the things that you might want. And you can learn also, there's like 16 overtones, by the way, to any note. So if I hit like this low C down here, it has 16 overtones. And those 16 overtones are only the ones we can perceive. Imagine a whole universe that's made of a resonant frequency series. And imagine the possibilities of how many overtones there might be that you can access and then make part of your field. So again, very exciting.
So a couple questions. Why 18 access points? Any ethereal mathematic reason there? Probably that's what my guide said, that we were creating an 18-point protocol, and once we opened into that, that's when the downloads began. I'm sure that there is a gematria to it. I am not sure that we're going to unpack that gematria during the seminar, but maybe we will, because the question was just asked. So thank you for asking that question. Another question.
I already had an answer ready for that. I'm going to wear mascara and I'll sing I'm 18 and I don't know what I want. We'll do it Alice Cooper way. His famous song 18. I think that's why 18 points.
I don't, but you can do that anyway. It would be quite entertaining for everyone, and I would come to a seminar just to see you do that.
I've done it before.
Do we have to create the music, or is it already there? That's a beautiful question, and all of the music, the universe is music. It's mathematics as love expressing through music. So all of the music is already there. It's a matter of tuning into it through resonance. So you will not necessarily be creating the music, although you will be creative in connecting to the musical orchestration that's going to allow for the greatest amount of coherence to be restored. So yeah, we will be teaching you ways to interact with the information as musical notes, as octaves, if you will, but it's not like you're sitting down and being challenged with the need to write a song.
No. However, I will say this, something you might want to try playing with before you come to the seminar, and I suggest everybody come to the seminar, is particularly, I think particularly, it's probably my bias, but I think particularly orchestral pieces, because it has such a richness of form and harmony with all the instruments when they're playing together, to start to listen to that and feel that in your body and go, now where do I feel that in my body? How does this make me feel? If I were to focus on that, what do I feel that doing? And if I were to put my attention, say on that particular, on the brass, you may not know a French horn, but say on the brass, where do I feel that in my body? And if I were to change that feeling a little bit, how does that change what I'm experiencing? Including pain patterns. You might be able to listen to a piece of music and direct something from that into the area of your body, and it could change it right there. So that's something that that you can start to play with right now, because it does work.
So another question that has been asked is about the format of the seminar. And the format of the seminar is going to be a little bit different depending upon the country that we're teaching it in. In the United States, for all of you that speak English and currently live in North America, or you're coming to North America, it's a 4-day seminar. The first 2 days will be the expanded version of ME. So yes, there will be aspects of the 2 points that are taught, aspects of time travel that are taught, aspects perhaps of parallel universes, frequencies. We're gonna bring it up to speed to where we are 2018 and beyond. And then there will be 2 days of unpacking the foundations of the 18-point protocol and putting it into play and action. The schedule will be slightly different when we're teaching in Italy and Germany. We are accounting for translation, and the larger preponderance of time will be spent on the new protocol, and we'll be having a more condensed version of the ME teachings, probably around 1 to 1.5 days. So it just is going to depend. We always teach to the unique configuration of the attendees, and we teach to what needs to be addressed based on the consciousness of those that are there. So we're a little flexible in the schedule, but 4 days in and out, and you will leave with some very, very powerful skills that you can put into play with all of your other skills. Everything that we're going to teach plays well with everything we teach individually, and it plays well with other modalities as well, and perhaps will supercharge your experience of other modalities, or might render those other modalities potentially obsolete. It'll be entirely up to you.
And so some of you who have never wanted to be a musician, or maybe wanted to be a musician but didn't know anything about it, you may come out of there and you may, we'll show you some software that you can get, some things you can do. You may come out of there and go, I'm inspired. I want to write something, because you're going to learn about harmony and rhythm and all that stuff. And so once you understand it, it's not what somebody else likes, it's what pleases you. It's like if you write one chord and you've got these beautiful sounds, and maybe some of them are dissonant, maybe some of them would creep somebody out, if it pleases you, that's what the important thing is. And each one of us is going to have very different ways that our systems, because we're all unique. At the Monroe Institute, Melissa and I heard about how there was a unique biosignal that when a person would be out of body, you could identify that person by their bio-identical signature. And and it's talked about actually in this book as well. And she mentions the Monroe Institute as well. So each one of us has that. We already have it. We are musical. We are music. All of life is music. All of creation is music, because it's based upon space and time, and space and time is harmony and rhythm, or melody and rhythm. So
it's really important
of life, as Stevie Wonder would say.
To re-emphasize something Richard just said, which is everybody responds differently. Richard and I've been meeting over the last several months to prepare for this class, and in our meeting the other day, he was playing some notes, and he was like, "Oh, isn't this wonderful and fabulous?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't stand that. It's like fingernails on a chalkboard." Like, my body was responding very negatively to it. So then he just tweaked it a little bit, took down the volume, kind of changed it, I think, into a lower octave. And all of a sudden, I felt very, very harmonic. So it wasn't about squeezing me into what he thought I needed. It was actually about him presenting an option and then taking a look at how my body was responding and then tweaking it based on what my body intuitively knew it needed. And so this is what you're really going to learn. And it's really about listening to what your client's body is saying. And your clients know. We respond to things in a certain way because of the way we're encoding information. And you can change up that response by delivering different information. And that's all going to be unpacked in a really playful, fun way. And there will be no fingernails on the chalkboard at the seminar, I promise you.
I could say something funny about that. I could say something funny about that, because the first time I two-pointed Melissa, she was different, and then she said she had a headache. And I asked her a question, well, is it a headache or is it just different? And so, and then she saw it differently and experienced it differently right then. She's told that story many times on stage. So something that you might not be trained to appreciate as, quote, harmonious or music even, might do something very spectacular, say with someone's prostate problem or with someone's arrhythmia of their heart. It's funny, what we need is we need dynamic disequilibrium. Our bodies work in chaos. They work in organized chaos. But music can help us to come out of a linear place. It's like if you always go to the same place, then you're stuck in this pattern, and that's more likely to develop a disease. The Germans have known this for many years. The Russians also have done a lot of research on this. So anything that's static and unchanging has lost its adaptation. So again, if you took something even that was a little weird or a little uncomfortable, like say a cello playing a trill here, and then a very low note here, again on say a bass flute here, and then something really high with the violin here, then you got this very wide set of octaves in this somewhat dense dissonant pattern. I'm going to send this out to some of you. And that could change that vibration of those cells. That could change that functional pattern. So it's not a matter of creating pretty happy tunes and things like that, or pleasing things necessarily. It's a matter of changing resonance in such a way that it begins to reignite that dynamic disequilibrium, which is the very nature of health.
And one person's pretty happy tone, maybe some other person's fingernails on a chalkboard. And the bottom line is you will know. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about what's coming through, is that it will it will parlay off of what many people have known and loved about the basic ME seminars. As far as the dates, we're going to leave that to Kay in the closing announcements. What we will say is that we can 100% commit and confirm to the fact that this Beyond ME seminar will be taught in Seattle in October, will be taught in Italy in November, and will be taught in Germany in December. And we cannot speak beyond 2018, so that if you are thinking about possibly attending, don't take a wait-and-see attitude. I would say commit to your curiosity and choose to show up and attend and participate in the event, and you will be delighted that you did.
Yeah, we cannot tell you what the future holds. We can only tell you what it's presenting, what the present is giving us now, and what we're going to give to you.
I heard something completely different. That's really, really funny.
Okay.
So with
that, was it happy and exciting?
It was a weird political thing. So anyway, on that note, I'm going to turn the webinar over to Kay, who's going to provide you with specifics. We want to thank you all for participating in this informational webinar. You know, to answer the question, have we done this with clients? The answer is yes. We've been doing this with clients for a while, and we will be sharing anecdotes and testimonials in the live experiential seminar, which we hope every single one of you will choose to attend in the United States, Italy, and or Germany. And if you want to watch this webinar again, you will receive a recording within 24 hours. So thank you very much. And with that being said, you want to say something else, Richard?
Yeah, I do. I'm sending you a little piece here of energy and information. But the other thing is just this morning, I was working with a person that in another country that has breast cancer, and I use these very principles to get deep into those tissues, into those cells, reprogram the DNA, and attempt to reestablish harmony in those cells. So yes, it is extremely valuable, and I use it all the time now. So.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Melissa. I'm going to mute Richard's mic so we don't have any background noise from him. I know Melissa can be quiet. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the webinar. And again, we want to invite you all to join both Richard and Melissa for their brand new seminar that they've been talking about this past 45 minutes, Beyond ME, Moving Beyond the Matrix. It will first be offered in Seattle, Washington. That will be October 20th through the 23rd. And for those of you that are asking, Dexter will be there. There is still an early bird tuition available for the Seattle seminar. It's available through tomorrow, all day tomorrow till midnight, and that's Friday, September 28th. You can find more details and you can register at the Institute for Harmonic Resonance Technology website at www.i-hrt.com. Check on the events page, or you can also link to it from the MJOY website at www.mjoyhartfield.com on the seminars page. After Seattle, Richard and Melissa will bring Beyond ME to Garda Lake, Italy. That will be November 22nd to the 25th. And then following that, they will be in Kirchzarten, Germany, December 6th through the 9th. You can visit the i-hrt.com website for links to our promoters overseas for more details and to register. And you can find that on the events page on the i-hrt.com website. Just click on Italy or Germany. And as Melissa mentioned, you'll receive a replay link to today's webinar about 24 hours from now. If you don't get it, please email info@i-hrt.com and I will send you the link directly as soon as I can. If you had a question today and it didn't get answered, please feel free to email it to that same address, info@i-hrt.com. Again, I thank you all for joining us. We wish you a wonderful day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And thanks again for joining us. Take care, everyone. Bye.